Gora graganya gana gocha goloruharam Goranga gudatama gopyata kolpa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshi kavaram satatam namami Uttama adama kichuna bachila jachiya dile kakola kahe premananda emona gauranga hridoya dariya bola bhaja gauranga kaha gauranga laha gaurangera namare jai jana gauranga bhaje se hoyamara pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bhidana Parama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavyarapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jodi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm so happy. This is one of my favorite times of the week to get to see everybody's face here. See Natalia and Bindu Sundari and Jai Gaur and Reed. Reed has an interesting face. It's just a special time for me that we can come together with some devotees and we can hear and chant something together, and that's a real sangha. Gorni Tai Prabhu is here tonight with Jao Prabhu in New Mayapur, France. I think they're having some problem with their connection. New Mayapur, if you haven't been there, it's a rural place and the connection is something like India. So we have a really special topic for today. We're continuing with this explanation of the Anarpita-carim cirat verse. I think we're going to have at least 3 or 4 more sessions. Probably we may go up to 10 different sessions on this one verse. But today we want to speak something about the meaning of ciram cirat that hasn't been given for a long time. And what is the meaning of that? It's a very, very beautiful discussion. So we'll go ahead and recite the verse. I'll paste this in and we can recite it together. You guys can, I could send you a link on the phone. We don't have to do it right now, but in the future, that way you can see the group comments and things like that. We have a couple live persons sitting with us. What a concept. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, Gauranga Nityananda. So this verse, which Jao Prabhu is just coming for the first time, I'll just say a couple of small words of introduction, and a few other devotees here for the first time too. This is a very important verse. This is by Rupa Goswami. This comes from his Vidagdha Madhav. It's an introductory verse, his Mangalacharna verse, second verse in Vidagdha Madhav. This verse appears 3 times in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And very, very important, very, very deep verse. As we were commenting on the first day, one Vaishnava scholar said that This is the first time in history that Bhakti was there prior to the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's Narada Bhakti Sutras, there's Bhagavatam, Bhakti was there. Rasa was also there. There's also some discussion of rasa. But before this verse, no one had combined the two things together, Bhakti and rasa. This is the amazing quality of Rupa Goswami and the amazing quality of this verse. We're going over my Guru Maharaj's Mangalacharna prayers for Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the 14th verse in that Mangalacharna. We're getting toward the end of it. And this verse, Anarpita-carim cirat, speaks about what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give and what's so special about him. And we've been speaking from a commentary attributed to Srila Jiva Goswami, and we spoke about that in our first session. We're just sure that it's not actually written by Srila Jiva Goswami. But we respect the author, whoever was it that compiled it, that wrote it, because he's wanted to put Jiva Goswami's name to it. We spoke something more, I think, in our last session about that. So we'll go ahead and recite the verse. If you can recite it together with us if you like. Let's see here. Maybe I can even post this easier on my page here. Anarpita-carim cirat karuna avatirna kalo samarpayitum manujvala rasam swabhakti shriham hari parata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipita sada hridaya kandare sparatu va sachinandanaha. Read, would you like to read the translation, please? Can you see it on my screen? Your screen?
I can read. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before. The most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love.
So we've been speaking quite a bit about this verse and different parts of it. And part of our discussion was how Hridaya Kandare speaks about the cavity of the heart. Hridaya means the heart, and Kandare means inside, or means a cavity. But Kandare also refers to a cave. And so there's that cave in our heart. That Kandara is a very private place in our heart. So Rupa Goswami is saying that may this Lord, may he appear in your heart, but may he appear in the cave of your heart, meaning may this be something very, very hidden, something very private. So last session we spoke about 3 different types of treasure. 2 sessions ago, I think it was. And we spoke about Samriddhiman Sambhog and Madanakya Mahabhav. And those 3 types of treasure are coins which are made out of gold, silver, etc., gems like sapphires and diamonds, etc., and transcendental touchstone. So these 3 are compared to Sadhana Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and Prem Bhakti. These are the treasure, the Swabhakti Shriyam that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. And how especially this verse refers to that transcendental touchstone that he gave in the form of Prema Bhakti. So then in our last session, I like this topic very much. I think it was the last session, someone can correct me. We told a story from Narottam Das Thakur's, from Narahari Chakravarti Thakur's Narottam Vilas, about Narottam Das Thakur's visit to Navadvip, and how when he arrived in Navadvip, he saw it was ecstatic. And everybody was dancing, and there was kirtan everywhere, and everybody was so very, very happy. And wow, what an amazing thing. And then he went a little further, and all of a sudden everything changed. And there was hardly anybody there. And the people that he did see just had their heads hanging down, and they were crying in separation. So we based this discussion on Narottam Vilas, but also from a purport in the 46th chapter, the 10th canto, wherein Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there's 2 chambers of Vrindavan. There's a chamber of union and a chamber of separation, and both are there eternally. And Vishwanath gives an example, just like in Dwarka, Krishna is there, and Narad Muni sees Krishna, sometimes in one house, but then he goes to another house. Krishna's with Satyabhama in one house. He goes to another house, another palace, and Krishna's with Rukmini. Krishna's in both places, but Krishna is not, there's different pastimes going on in different places, and they may not even be aware externally of what the other person is doing. So this is Vrindavan, that there's two chambers. And Vishwanath explains elaborately. Jiva Goswami says in Gopal Champu too that Krishna and Balaram stayed in Mathura, and Nanda Maharaj returned alone to Vrindavan. We spoke about that many, many sessions ago in our morning sessions about meeting in Kurukshetra. And it was such a heavy thing for Nanda Maharaj to return to Vrindavan alone. But according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishna expanded and made two forms of Nanda Maharaj, two chariots, and two forms of himself and Balaram. And one form of himself and Balaram stayed in Mathura. One form of Nanda Maharaj in a chariot returned to Vrindavan alone. And another form of Nanda Maharaj returned with great exultation with a huge festival with Krishna and Balaram. And these two things are going on in Vrindavan at the same time. And he gives many examples to support that, one of which is that when Uddhava first entered into Vrindavan, he saw all the deer and the cows and everybody so ecstatic and happy. And Vishwanath comments that he'd entered in the chamber of union. But then he went a little further and he came to a chamber of separation. Everyone was crying and lamenting in separation from Krishna. And then begins the 46th chapter of the 10th canto. So we spoke something about that in our last session, about the special quality of Navadvipdham in connection with this particular verse today. So today we want to speak something about, based on this commentary, of this Anarpita-carim cirat, that how this has not been given in a long, long time. So we can say like that, but someone may have a doubt. They may say that, okay, you're saying that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanyaya avatar because Krishna Prema Pradayate, he gave Krishna Prema to everyone. But we've read the Bhagavatam. We know so many devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Hanuman, Vibhishan, the Pandavas, and others, they've also gotten Prema. It's not a new gift. So what are you saying? Anarpita-carim cirat. It's seen in each and every yuga. So that's the doubt. And these doubts are such a very, very important thing. One devotee wrote to me today, speaking of saying that they want to learn what does it mean to have proper. He said, actually, I just read you the exchange. It's very short but interesting. And he said, I would like to know how we can follow the principles of hearing in a proper way. Pranipatena, pariprashna, and sevaya. So we spoke something from Ramanujacharya's commentary in the Gita, where these three things are described as the three qualities of Shravan Adhikar, qualification to hear. So I replied to him that proper pranipat means to submit yourself. It means that we want to inquire about transcendence. It means we submit ourselves before the speaker, before the subject matter in a submissive way. Proper pariprashna. Pariprashna means to question. Proper pariprashna means that we frankly and honestly express to the speaker any doubts or reservations we have about the topic. If we don't do that, my Guru Maharaj spoke in one lecture, he said, then we're just being duplicitous. We should be honest. We may it's not that we listen, think, that's okay, but I don't believe all that. How can you say that God is a blue boy and he plays with cows and little girls and things? That doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I'm here. All my friends are here. And I like the food. It's a lot of fun. And so we just stay for that reason. But no, pranipat, if your hearing won't be proper, the result won't come to you properly. You won't have Shravan Adhikar. So pranipat should be there, pariprashna, and sevaya. And proper sevaya means that we serve the message and the source from which we've gotten it from. There's the Bhakta Bhagavat and the Grantha Bhagavat. But both of them we serve. We may serve the body of the devotee. Jiva Goswami speaks about that in Bhakti Sandarbha. Although Srila Prabhupada stressed so much about Vani Seva, Vapu Seva is also very important. And it's not that when Srila Prabhupada arrived in New York or something, that Prabhupada said, where's my breakfast? Where's a place to stay? And the devotee said, well, anyway, Prabhupada, the important thing is Vani Seva. So go ahead, just speak. We want to listen to you, but we're not going to feed you. We're not going to give you a place to stay. Because what's important is Vapu Seva is also very important. And you can't really ultimately, in one sense, say that one is better than the other. In another sense, Vani Seva is the most important because that's what pleases that sadhu. And if all we're doing is just Vapu Seva, serving that person's body, and we don't understand their message, we won't get their blessing. We won't understand their heart. Plus, as often was pointed out by Srila Prabhupada, that we won't always have that Vapu Sangha, that Sangha, the association with the body. But the Vani Seva can always go on. At the same time, as I sometimes comment, if we want to hear about Srila Prabhupada, and we all love to hear about Srila Prabhupada, there's thousands of disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Many of them never met him. They just heard his classes. Some of them saw him in class, but they never had any exchange or anything. Still, we like to hear from them because they've rendered service for so many years and they've done, and Prabhupada's come in their heart. At the same time, though, if I could hear from Brahmananda Prabhu, or if I can hear from Jamuna or Govinda Das, one of the early devotees, Satsvarup Maharaj, or someone who had lots of association, physical Vapu association with Srila Prabhupada, I'm much more excited about that. I want to do that thing. Although, of course, it does depend on the person. Someone may have Vapu Seva. Prabhupada once gave an example that the mosquito is associating with the Vapu. But what does he appreciate? So we want to hear from someone who has devotion. But by that association, they got trained. So that proper seva means that we serve the message and the source we've gotten it from by serving the message. We especially do that by practicing the message in our life and sharing it with others. So let's go back to our point in this verse today. I don't know how I got off on this little tangent. So the objection is, the doubt is, that was how we got on this subject. We have some doubt and we should be honest about the doubt. Okay, you're saying Anarpita-carim cirat, that this hasn't been given in a long time, but excuse me, how can you say that? Prahlad Maharaj and Barish Maharaj, so many different personalities are there. They've gotten this prema, so what are you saying? And he answered by the commentaries that definitely this prema is Anarpita-carim. It's not offered to anyone for a long time. In all these previous ages, these devotees all got prema by the mercy of devotees like Narad Muni. But that was due by their own strength and capability in bhajan, by which they got some result. But now, Uttama Adama Kichu Nabachila Jachi Yadile Kako, Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Hridaya Dari Abo. Where the poet Premananda Das glorifies Gauranga Mahaprabhu, is that he's Uttama Adama Kichu Nabachila. He doesn't consider who's Uttam and who's Adam, who's elevated, who's fallen, but he's freely giving this Krishna prema. Previously, your skill and strength in bhajan was your adhikar. But in Kali Yuga, the only adhikar we have is pleasing Gurudev and pleasing Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Now, how do we do that? Tate Krishna Bhaji Kore Guru Sevan. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that we please our Gurudev by doing bhajan. But not that we think, oh, my bhajan is so powerful, I'm doing such bhajan. We're doing the bhajan because Gurudev is pleased by that. We're repeating Srila Prabhupada's words, not even necessarily because we've understood them, but we're repeating them because Prabhupada will be so happy to see that we're repeating what he said. So if you say in previous ages, devotees like Prahlad, Ambarish, and Hanuman and others, they got this prema, how can it, but we say by their own strength and capability, that's how they got it. So then how can the Lord be considered to be the donor or the giver of the prema? If a king takes away the wealth of a miser, Can that miser be described as a charitable person? Miser doesn't have anything. So the Lord, he gives prema equally on everybody. Uttama adama kichuna bachila. He gives his friends, his enemies, people who are neutral. He gives to everyone. He doesn't care about himself. He gave prema to Jagai and Madai. If he does that, then that charity of prema is going to be glorified. And any other types of giving prema, how can we call that real charity? It's real charity when there's no qualification. Therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami describes in his Govardhan Basa Prarthana Dasakam that Nirupadi Karunena Shri Satchinandanena Twai Kapati Satopi Twat Priya Anarpitosmi. That even though I'm a criminal, Arpita, I'm a great criminal, I have no qualification, I'm a cheater, but still Gauranga Mahaprabhu has given me this mercy, and it's Nirupadika Karuna. It's Karuna, mercy that has no designation. We love someone. A young boy falls in love with a young girl, and then the girl has to go back to Russia, has to go someplace, and the boy doesn't see her for 2 months. If during those 2 months he doesn't hear anything from her, and he's writing to her every day, but he doesn't hear anything from her, how does the boy feel? Many times he'll become angry. And why is that anger there? Because there's some upadi, there's some designation. I'm giving you my love, but with that love, there's a designation. You're my beloved. And along with that designation comes some expectation that I'm going to love you. Even sometimes someone may say, I accept you as my disciple. But then I expect, as my disciple, you're always going to please me. You're going to be perfect. You're never going to quarrel with me. A girl gets married to a boy. You're always going to be romantic with me. You're never going to get angry with me. The boy marries a girl. She's always going to cook for me. She's always going to be so sweet. She'll never quarrel back with me. Those are upadis. And upadis are a kind of violence. We call it love, but along with that so-called love, it's like a contract. I love you. I've designated you as being my beloved. So I expect you to write to me. I expect you to contact me every so often. How is it you're not doing that? And when we become very, very disturbed, or they behave in a way that we didn't like, that they want to do something on their own, God forbid, instead of just being my submissive, docile wife who does whatever I want. So, and the same thing goes with children, that we love our child sometimes, but as soon as our child does something that we don't love, we don't like, it may be something very bad. Just like I know, I tell the story sometimes, a friend of mine who became a Hare Krishna devotee, and she grew up in a wealthy family and they gave her anything. And one day she came home from school where her parents were paying for her schooling. And she said, Dad, I went to school today and it was really good. And I met these nice people and they gave me this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is. And it's really a nice book. And a week later, she's been reading it and she says, Dad, I want to join the Hare Krishnas. And then her father, who loved her so much, all of a sudden he says, I hate you. You're not my daughter anymore. So he loved her as long as she would respond in a particular way. So that's not real charity. If someone is a due recipient of the charity, if we say Anarpita-carim cirat, in this verse, it has not been given anyone in a long time, but then we say that this charity is being given to qualified people, then we have to say, how is it real charity? There's some designation with it. If your love is there, I love you as long as I have a document here, 10 different points on the list here, you sign your name, I will love you as long as you do these 10 things. Never argue with me, always write to me, always smile at me, cook for me, do this, this, and this. You do these 10 things and then I will love you. And you're my official object of love. So that's not real love. And it's not real charity. If there's some hoiti, it's hoitiki dan, or it's charity with a motivation. It's hoitiki prema, or hoitiki priti. It's love or affection with a motivation. But the Bhagavatam begins by stating that it should be ahoitiki, apratiyata, yayatma supersedity. For it to be fully satisfying, And Yayatma, Atma means both Jivatma and Paramatma. For this love to be satisfying both for the devotee and to the Lord, it has to be ahoitiki and apratiyata, without any motivation, without any start or finish. It's always going on. So I'm not going over the topics that I want so much. I'm getting little tangents today. But anyway, so another objection comes at this point in the commentary. So you may say that Putana, she was a killer of babies. And she got causeless prema, right? There was no cause. How can you say it wasn't that, okay, we're going to give Putana prema because she killed 25 babies. And if you killed only 24, we're not, no, there's no qualification. It was causeless. So what about that? So the commentator replies that this verse says, Unnata ujvala rasam. This is the important point. Unnata ujvala rasa swabhakti shriyam. That what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving is another thing. That what Mahaprabhu came to give is the highest ujvala rasa, unnata ujvala rasa. Unnata means that the topmost thing. Unnata ujvala rasa. It's the most elevated, it's the highest aspect of this ujvala rasa. So ujvala rasa means this madhurya ras. And it's swabhakti. Swabhakti means his own bhakti. It's love for him. Swabhakti is shriyam. And it's shriyam. It's the essence of that. And we'll speak, I think, more about that. What is that swabhakti shriyam in a later session. Right today, we want to focus on this Anarpita-carim cirat. So this is Anarpita-carim cirat because unnata ujvala rasam. Because what Mahaprabhu was giving was something that Krishna never gave before. This Madhurya Ras, my Guru Maharaj used to say, I'm perhaps reading from this commentary, as we'll speak, I think, in an upcoming session, maybe in our next session, depends on how far we go today. I think I'm not going to go so far. Guru Maharaj would speak that this Madhurya Ras, it's locked away in a jewel box inside of a jewel box inside of a jewel box inside of a jewel box. And the Bhagavatam, 5th canto says, Muktam dadati kari chit smana bhakti yogam. That Krishna, he gives liberation, no problem. But bhakti, that's something else. That bhakti is very, very rare. And then, so what to speak of this unnata ujvala rasa, this thing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving. What an amazing thing that is. So I'd like to, at this point, go to Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There's a very, very interesting discussion in the first canto, chapter 5 from Srila Sanatana Goswami. I'd just like to read a few verses to you. He says, Aho Shrinuta Purvam tu Kesanchit Adhikarinam Anena Diyamano Bhun Moksha Stitya Iyam Sada. He said, Aho Shrinutu. Oho means like, hey, you're like saying, oh, please. Shrinutu means listen, please listen. This is something very important. Suno. In Bengali, they say suno. Bahutuli suno. Many verses begin with bahutuli. Bahutuli means with two hands in the air. Same kind of meaning. It means listen very carefully. I'm making a big important announcement. Aho shrinutu purvam tu kesananchit adhikarinam. Previously, kesananchit, for a few people who were adhikari, who were qualified candidates, anena diyamanam, that Krishna gave them the gift of liberation. But he only gave that to a few persons. And he says that moksha stiti iyam sada. This is the rule about liberation. So in this section of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narad Muni, he's speaking about the cause of the Pandavas' superior devotional position because of their worshipful relationship with Krishna. So in so many different incarnations, the Lord very rarely gave liberation. And most of the demons were killed by the avatars of Krishna, Matsya Karma, Varaha, Nrsinga Karma, like that. They had to take birth again to be purified. There's a nice discussion in the Vishnu Purana about this, which Jiva Goswami elaborates on in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, that why it is that when Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were killed by the Lord, why it is that by Lord Varaha and then by Lord Nrsingadev, why they didn't get liberation. And the answer is they saw, wow, this is some really far out creature. This Varaha is really far out. This Nrsingadev is really, really far out. But that was the extent of their appreciation. Because they were killed by the Lord. Now, of course, I'm not going into the consideration that these are the Lord's eternal associates. That's another perspective. Now we're just speaking about an example that they're setting. But because they were killed by the Lord, they got so much benediction. In their next life, they became Kumbhakarna and Ravan. And then they got to have association with an even higher aspect of the Lord, Bhagavan Ramachandra, who's a higher aspect in the sense that he does Nara Lila. When Varaha comes, he's not doing Nara Lila. He's doing Hog Lila, excuse me. He's doing Boar Lila. Lord Nrsingadev is coming, and he's a very Chamatkar personality. He's half lion, half man. He's doing this Lila like that. But when Lord Ramachandra comes, you really think, wow, this is a human being. And he's crying in separation from his wife. That was a higher thing. But they were killed by Lord Ramachandra, but still, they didn't recognize Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because they were killed by Lord Ramachandra, and that was the last thing that they saw, that Ravan saw before he left his body, they got so much benediction from that. And the benefit was they took birth again as Shishupal and Dantavakra, and they were killed by Krishna. And in that incarnation, as Shishupal and Dantavakra, they understood, they recognized Krishna, but moreover, it was Krishna who killed them. And because Krishna is Purna Bhagavan, he's Swayam Rup Govinda, he's a complete form of the Lord, Purna Bhagavan, Swayam Rup Govinda, meaning he's the original form of the Lord. Therefore, when they were killed by him, they got liberation. So Sanatana Goswami goes on to describe about what different incarnations of the Lord give to different persons. Kalanimir Hiranyaksho, Hiranyakashipustata, Ravana Kumbhakarnascha, Tatanye Gatita Swayam, Muktim Nanita Bhaktirna, Datta Kasmaichit Uttama, Praladaya Param Datta, Srina Singhavatārataha. He gives a list of different persons. Kalanimi, who became Kamsa in his next birth, Kalanimi, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, Kumbhakarna. So many of these persons were killed by the Lord, but none of them got liberation. And pure bhakti, it says that muktim nanita bhaktir na datta kasmai chit uttama. They didn't get liberation. And they didn't get bhakti. That bhakti wasn't given to anyone but Praladaya Param Datta, Srina Singhavatārata. But Prahlad was given it. He was the only one who was given that bhakti. So we could describe each one of these different personalities. I won't go there. But he goes on to explain further. Hanuman Jambavan Shriman Sugrivota Vibhishana Guho dasarato pyete nunam katipaye janaha Raghunath avatare smach chudam bhaktim tulebhire Vishudashyata kashyapi premno vartapi nastita. He says later on, Ramachandra, he came, Raghunath avatare smach chudam, that Lord Raghunath, Lord Ramachandra came later on, and he gave pure bhakti. Bhaktim tu lebere. He gave bhakti to a few people. He gave it to Guha, that tribal person. He gave the Hanuman, Jambavan, Vibhishan, Dasarat, his father, and Sugriv. But still, amongst those devotees, we don't hear about the topmost prem that they'd gotten. They got some Vaikuntha Bhav. They got some love of God, definitely, but it wasn't the same thing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was coming to give. So Narad Muni goes on to describe, Idanyam bhavadiyena matulyena nakritaha mukta bhaktas tata sudha prema sampurita kati. He's speaking now to the Pandavas. Narad Muni says, but now, idanyam means nowadays. Nowadays, now, your matulyena, your maternal cousins. The mata means your mother, or the children of your on your mother's side, your cousins. Now they've been given liberation. That means that the Kauravas have been given liberation, and many people have been given prema, all by the mercy of your cousins. Atmana marita yecha gatita varjanadibi narakarhascha detayas tanmahimnam ritam gataha. And by the glory of Krishna, these demons who were Marita means they were killed. The Gatita, Krishna caused them to be killed. And how did he kill them? He says, Arjun Adibi. He killed them through Arjun and through other personalities. Now they've gotten liberation by being killed by the Lord or by the Lord's devotees. And Sanatana Goswami explains that Krishna gives liberation when he kills a demon, but also Krishna's devotees can also do that. And it happens because, as Krishna told Arjuna, Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin, I'm going to do this through you. Krishna is himself directly killing those demons. And this is a nice meditation for devotees. We also, our Sankirtan means killing demons. It doesn't mean that we go out with a gun and we start shooting everybody, all the demons who go to the liquor store or something like that. But we kill the demoniac mentality. We're not interested in fighting about COVID or fighting about war or this thing or that thing, but we want to kill the demoniac mentality. And the way that we're able to kill that demoniac mentality, Krishna acts through the devotee in the form of his holy name. So Narad Muni goes on then, Tapo japa gana para munayo ye rita sadakaha vishamito gotamascha vashishto pitata pare takurukshetra ratyayam gatva Krishna prasadata bhaktim tam pratyatam prapya bhavam stad bhakti tat paraha. He says that there have been so many different sages. And he gives, again, a list, Vishwamitra Muni, Gautama Muni, Vashishta Muni, who they were doing tapa, japa, jnana, they were doing so much austerities, chanting mantras, they had some knowledge, they had different goals in life. But still, Krishna, when they came to Kurukshetra, Krishna inspired them that the real thing, take Kurukshetra Yatra, and when they went on Yatra to Kurukshetra, Gatva Krishna Prasadata, Krishna at that time gave them his mercy. So that Bhaktim Tam Pratyatam Prapya Bhavam Sad Bhakti Tatpara, they got this bhakti, they appreciated, oh, bhakti is a real thing. And Tad Bhakti Tatpara, they became fully, Tatpara means that they became fully dedicated to this bhakti. They understood this is the topmost thing. But that's a very rare thing, even in Krishna Lila. So then he goes on to explain something which we hear about in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Stavaras yoni gatashtaru latadaya sudasatvika bhavaptya tat prema rasa varshina. That even the Stavara means the immovable living entities, like the trees and some rocks. Some Prabhupada says in one conversation, he says that rocks, there's some rocks which are living rocks. When I was a boy, I used to collect rocks, and they have geodes. A geode is a rock, you break it open, and there's crystals inside, and those are growing. So those are living rocks. And some mountains are dead, but some mountains are still living, and they're growing, they're changing in different ways. So that's Stavara. Those are immovable creatures. Chatama yoni, chatama yoni. They have tama yoni. They were born in a mode of ignorance. And that means trees and creepers and different personalities like that. He says, but now, Sudha Sattvika Bhava Tat Prema Rasavarshan. Now, the same trees and things, they're getting Krishna Prema. It's an astonishing thing. In the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, chapter 8, Kunti Devi, when she speaks to Krishna, she speaks about the condition of the trees and plants in Hastinapur. And she says, Irme janadi pasvadrida, supak voshari viruda, vanadri nadyudanvanto yedante tattva vikshitai. Vriksha means a tree. And vana means the creepers and things. She says, in these villages and these places, they're all flourishing because the oshadi means the herbs and the grains in these places, they're all in abundance. All the trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are all full of, but all of this is because of your sidelong glance, Krishna. So when Krishna gave his sidelong glance to that Stavara, Yonim, Jamnasu, these personalities who are Tama Yoni, who were born in ignorance and non-moving living entities, they still got Krishna Prema. So then Narad Muni goes on to explain a little more. Hey Krishna, Bratarastasya Kim Varnyo Purvadarshita Rupa Sundara Yalavanya Madhur Ascharyata Bara. He says, but my dear, he addresses the Pandavas as Krishna Bratara. Brata means a brother. In Vedic culture, the cousin is considered to be a brother or a sister also. He says, hey Krishna Brataras, oh my dear brothers of Krishna. He says, now I want to speak something special about Krishna. What is so special about Krishna? How can I speak of Kim Varnya? How can I speak about his qualities? Apurva Darshita, no one's ever seen previously, Apurva Darshita Rupa Sundarja. No one's ever seen such bodily beauty. Lavanya Madhur Ascharata. Ascharata means very astonishing. And it's bara, there's so much abundance of it. His bodily beauty, his Rupa Sundarja, his Lavanya, his effulgence, his Madhurja, his charm and sweetness that he has. Ascharata, his charit, his character is amazing character. We've never seen anything like this before. This is the special quality about Krishna. And Krishna, again, is not avatar, he's avatari. Narad Muni goes on to say more about the special quality of Krishna in comparison to these other avatars. Apurvat vena tashyaiva yo vismaya vidayakaha tata lila guna prema mahima kelibur api. That all of these qualities, he uses this word apurvat vena, they're unprecedented. We've never heard anything like this. They're Vishmaya. Vishmaya Vidyadika. Vidyaka means that it generates Vishmaya, astonishment. We're just completely astonished when we think about the wonderful, amazing qualities of Krishna. His pastimes, his Tata Lila, his Guna, his qualities, Prema, the love for him, Mahima, his glorious qualities, Keli Burapi, his Keli means his sports. When we think about all those things, we become very, very astonished. Narad Muni, he knows all the different avatars. He's a great devotee of Lord Narayana. He says, but Krishna is something very, very special. Manye trava tarishyana swayameva asoyadi tadasha bhagavat taiva bhavishyat prakatanahi. He says that Manye, I am thinking like this, that Manye, if he avatarishyat na, if he hadn't come, na swayam eva so yadi, if he hadn't come in his original form, yadi means if he had not come in that swayam roop form, that original form, then tadasha bhagavat taiva bhavishya prakatanahi, the world never would have understood his original identity as a personality of Godhead. So this is a special quality of Krishna. And when we speak about this Anarpita-carim cirat, I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to summarize a little bit what we've gone over today. When we speak about this Anarpita-carim cirat, the commentator is making this, he's protesting, saying, well, you said this hasn't been given in a long time before, this prema, but if we think about it, There's so many personalities who've gotten prema, and he gives us lists: Prahlad, Ambarish, Hanuman, so many different personalities. But he says, no, they didn't get this Unnata Jvala Rasa. They didn't get that thing. What did they get? So in this session today, we tried to discuss something about, from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, what kind of mercy the demons get when they're killed by Varaha, by Nrsimhadev, by different avatars of the Lord, and how that's very insignificant in comparison to what they get from Krishna. And I'm going to stop here so that we can try to digest this a little bit. And in our next session, I'm going to continue with the same topic about Anarpita-carim. And I want to speak then something about how it is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, which is so much more than even what Krishna is giving. And that's very, very chamatkar. That's a very, very astonishing thing. So I'm sorry, we're going a little bit slow, but as Amarendra Prabhu mentioned to me recently, he said that it's just like if you sit down and someone gives you, Bhakti Reed will appreciate this because he's a connoisseur. Someone gives Bhakti Reed like 4 really big, really ripe, super sweet mangoes. Here, Reed, here's some nice mango prasad, but you've only got 1 minute to eat it. What will he do? He's going to be very, very frustrated. All you can do is just make a big mess all over your face, right? Mango pulp all over. Huh? Bindu Sundari knows, right? That's what your children do when they get a mango, right? It just goes all over their face, and that's all you can do in 1 minute. So we can go real quick like that. I don't like that. That's why we're going so slowly through this Mangalacharna, so we can digest it in a proper way. So I'm sorry we're going so slow. I want to open things up now and ask the devotees if you can share with us what you're walking away with today. And as usual, nice Tusha Krishna Bhu, nice to see you here today. Hi, Krishna. I want to request maybe Tushta Krishna Bhu to go first. I think Tushta Krishna, Bindu Sundari, and Ujjwala Rasagya, all 3 of you have to go pretty soon because you're real people with real responsibilities, not like the rest of us kind of wannabe hippie Hare Krishna devotees who just have all the time in the world. So Tushta Krishna, would you want to share any reflection you have from today? Or as Vaisheshika sometimes says, what did you win? If you won any prize, something you liked from our discussion today? I'm not sure if you're there. Okay, then we'll turn to your better half. Bindu Sundari, do you have any reflection you want to share with us?
Well, I was thinking about how you were describing it. Nanda Maharaj, there was one Nanda Maharaj that stayed with Krishna, and there's one that left. And, you know, when I hear about that, I think, oh, how much I would want to understand how someone could be. But then it occurred to me that actually in any given moment, we have different parts of ourselves that are feeling different ways about one thing. And so I was realizing like, oh, it kind of happens already. You know, like I was thinking how Prabhupada, someone commented on a photo of him and said, oh, you look very grave in this photo. And he said, actually, that was like, I was in great happiness in that photo. So I was thinking, oh, okay, we can actually experience great happiness and gravity. We can experience great happiness and sadness, but this is all the rich layers when that are there in spiritual existence.
Nice. And also our relationships with different persons express different aspects of ourself. You know, we're all complex creatures. To use you as an example, Bindu Sundari, you have 2 small children, and you deal with them in a certain way. If you have somebody come from the Denver Chamber of Commerce or something like that, you don't deal with that person the same way you deal with your children. It wouldn't work. Or professor, someone comes to the temple. You have devotees in the temple, and you deal with them in a different way. You have so many, and each one of those relationships is you. But it's a different facet of your personality, which different personalities are seeing. And that's what's so beautiful about Gaudiya Vaishnavism, whereas other processes, even of Vaishnavism, the primary reason for the practitioners doing sadhana is so they get liberation. or maybe even that they get Krishna prem. But in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we want to understand the mood of the Lord. And one of the first things we want to do, just like to use you as an example again, if we came to Denver, we could say, I could go and interview 5 different persons about you. And one person say, that lady, man, she's complete nonsense. Someone else say, I love her, she's wonderful. And hopefully your kids would have something nice to say about you. They would have different experiences. And you can't just pick out one of those persons. Each one of them has their own way that they're seeing you. And each one of them is correct in that way. And if you really want to appreciate Brinda Sundari, if you really want to come close to that person, I should understand that you're a multifaceted person and you have different relationships with different persons, and I should respect that. Again, when we come back to this upadhi, sometimes when we have love for someone, it's a common thing we see amongst men who are very controlling. They love their wife, they love their girl, and they tell her, now you're not allowed to talk to any men, and you can't be friends with any men whatsoever, because they're very shallow, they're very controlling, and they're very afraid. So they don't want to allow them to have any other relationship like that. But that's a very sick kind of relationship. And in devotion, when we approach the Lord, we want to naturally understand and respect that he has so many different relationships with so many different persons, and we want to respect all those relationships. But out of all the different people who have a loving relationship with him, there's going to be one person we really like their relationship. And we feel like that person's got the best relationship. It's just so good. I remember, who was it? It's an old friend of mine, Prabhupada disciple, passed away not so long ago. His name's not coming to my mind. But one devotee commented about him that once he just walked into Prabhupada's darshan room, and he just walked in and said, Prabhupada, here's some prasadam. And he gave Prabhupada some prasadam, and there was a new volume of the Bhagavatam, which had just come out. No one had gotten a copy yet. Prabhupada had the first copy. And he said, Prabhupada, could I have that book? And Prabhupada said, yes. And he just took the book and just walked out like that. And so this other devotee was watching a Vishal Prabhu. It was Vishal. He was watching Vishal Prabhu, and he thought, wow, I wish I had a relationship with Prabhupada like Vishal Prabhu. And he liked that relationship. So we will naturally see so many different relationships with someone. But there's going to be one relationship which we're going to think, oh, this is the mood I would like. And this person I like very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Brinda Sundari. So I know she's got to go for class soon, I know. And Ujjwala Rasiga, are you there? Ujjwala Rasiga, she's a doctor. She's working in the hospital in North Carolina, and it's hard for her. Are you there? Hare Krishna? Okay. Then maybe we'll turn to Brinda Raval, which is actually the secret identity of Mayapur Chandra. It's not actually that young girl, but it's Mayapur Chandra. Mayapur Chandra, do you have any reflections or comments? I think you're also a doctor. I know you also have something to do and go to if you're alive and well. Ujjwala Rasiga says she can't talk today. Let me read her comment from before. She says, so grateful I could get at least some of this Sangha and Kata, cannot talk today. Okay, so Mayapur Chandra, maybe he also can't talk. It's all right. Natalia has a question, and it looks like Gorni Prabhu has a doubt. Natalia says, were Shishupal and Dantavakra born again as Jagai and Madhe? That's an interesting question. My Guru Maharaj once asked me that question. And my Guru Maharaj is so simple, although he's the most learned person I'd ever seen. He was also just very, very simple. And once he asked me, do you know any pramana about that? And I looked, and I found in Chaitanya Bhagavat that there's some statement that Shishupal and Dantavakra took birth again. Although they were cursed by the 4 Kumaras to take birth 3 times, they came again in an extra birth as Jagai and Madai. So yeah, that was there. And Gorni Prabhu has this doubt. How is it that only Lord Chaitanya has this love for everyone? How is it that Krishna hasn't, Lord Nrsimhadev hasn't? Well, to answer that, we have to understand Swabhakti Shriyam. Swabhakti means his own bhakti. Now, how can you understand your own bhakti? Huh? Gornitai Prabhu, you know, everybody, there's so many devotees who love you in Hungary and in France and in Germany and so many different places. But how can you understand the feelings that those devotees have for you? It's not possible for me to understand the feelings someone else has for me unless I become Priti Ashray. Priti Ashray means the abode of love, unless I take on the role of a devotee. So because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that, whereas Krishna and Lord Nrsingadev and all these other different manifestations of the Lord, they're Priti Vishray, they're the object of love. They're not coming in the mood of a devotee, and therefore they're not able to understand that devotion in the same way that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done. That's just the tip of the iceberg of that question. And that question is something we want to go very deeply in. And I think you can understand it has a lot to do with Srimati Radharani. Mayapur Chandra Prabhu has commented saying something very important. Hari Krishna Prabhuji, my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. That's the best thing to say. And that's Mayapur Chandra Prabhu's realization. Okay, and who else would you like to hear to speak? Tushta Krishna Prabhu, if you're there, you can speak up anytime you like. Otherwise, Jao is new with us today. He's there with Gornitai Prabhu in New Mayapur, which is such a wonderful, quiet place with so many wonderful devotees who are growing nice food. And I used to go for walks in the forest there when we were there. And I was always trying to figure out where the secret passageways are and the hidden chambers in that castle. The devotees stay in the New Mayapur. Jao Prabhu, do you have any reflections, anything that you liked from our discussion today that you want to repeat?
I remember in the very beginning you spoke how Rupa Goswami was putting together these 2 points of tattva and rasa. And I was remembering a text that we studied recently of the Chitra Kavitatvani. And the first verse is how he expresses his greatness in poetry composition, but at the same time a very deep understanding of tattva simultaneously with the rasa, and how he compiles such like magnanimous poetry while simultaneously holding the deepest tattva and expressing the highest realms of rasa. So I was appreciating that of Rupa Goswami's and our Acharya's qualifications.
Thank you. That's a very deep thought. I really appreciate that. I was having some discussion recently with our friend Amarendra a week or two ago about poetry and Sanskrit and Bengali poetry. And let me share something with all of you, which may be a little discouraging sounding. We think that we can translate. This is a book called Gambhiraya Sri Gauranga. We're getting this translated now in English. Wonderful book. We may think that translation is complete, but it's not. Even though the translation may be able to convey all the Siddhantic understandings that are there, there's something else. There's the rhyme. Na prema shavanadi bhaktirapi vayogo tava vaishnavo gyanamba subhakarma vakiyadaho sajjatirapyastiva. That Sanskrit, there's some poetry, there's some rhyme there. And in that rhyme, there's so much sweetness. There's some similes, there's words which are similar to each other, and there's many deep extra meanings. And you can't convey that exactly in a translation. Just like someone may try to translate. In Hungary, the Hungarian poets are very, very amazing. My wife has read some Hungarian poetry to me. There's some very brilliant Hungarian poets who've written some very deep devotional thoughts. I'm sure also in French. I know in Russian language, Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj is always reading some different Russian poetry, which conveys very deep thoughts. But to try to translate that poetry into another language, into English, you can't really do it. You can do something. Maybe you can, the best you can try to do, you can give the meaning, and you can try to also give some rhyme in a similar way. But the rhyme's not going to be the same rhyme. It's not going to have the same kind of mood, the same kind of sweetness as in the original language. So that's a very important thing. And what Rupa Goswami came to give was not just this siddhanta, not just this tattva, but it was this bhakti, and rasa put together on top of this siddhanta, this bhakti siddhanta, but all within a box of poetry. And that poetry is necessary to express the feelings and emotions, especially the Braj Gopikas, the gopis of Vrindavan. So thank you very much, Jal. That's a very nice, enlightening comment. I really appreciate it.
I remember we were studying the different verses, how they were composed. And there was one verse, I have it in my notes, was either verse 9 or 11, if I'm reminding precisely, which was structured in what they call the wheel formation.
Uh-huh.
There's a particular way in which, when applying a diagram, we see how the verse was very wonderfully constructed. And many centuries later, Baladev Vidyabhushan found that within that construction was the signature of Rupa Goswami, where he was saying that he was the author of that verse. And so there was so many hidden perceptions within this poetry, which is like a very deep, very beautiful arrangements of our acharyas.
Yeah, Charit Vani, Charit means a picture, and Vani means the spoken. And there's a long tradition, both, especially in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, of Rupa Goswami especially, of writing these kind of poems where sometimes the verse, you can read it forwards or backwards. You can put them on, and you can read it upside down. You can make a diagram out of it as you're saying out of it in the form of a mridanga, in the form of a wheel, or this or that. And the verse works and has different meanings, or the same meaning, even going in different ways. It's amazing, amazing poetry like that. And that's an important thing. It's an important aspect from our acharyas. Poetry is something, what is a special quality about art and poetry in general? It's not needed. Financial matters, banking is needed. That's really important. Everybody's going to say banking is very important. Food is very important. Paying your bills and mathematics, that's very important. Construction is important. But art, someone may argue that if there's no art, then because you don't eat art, you don't eat the painting, you don't, it's not necessary for your bank account. It's not necessary to live. But that art, the special quality of it, it's ahoitaki. There's no motivation for it. So our mind can take shelter of it. And there can be some chamatkar, something astonishing that we can place there in our mind. And there's no motivation. It's not, I'm not doing this because of money or to get a promotion or to get some politics or this or that. It's just there for the quality of itself. And this is also the quality of the Bhagavatam and hearing Bhagavatam. And just by hearing it without any motivation, it's such a relief. Whereas if we're going, even in the temple, we have Prabhus, we have an Istagosi today. We're all going to come together and we're going to talk about the new bhaktas and how the new bhaktas, I saw one of the new bhaktas eating with his left hand, and the new bhaktas, we have to train them better. And some of the times they're wearing a shoe inside, or, they had some meeting like that. Then you start saying, oh my God, this is, some politics a little bit or this or that. It's maybe necessary. We do that. But if you come together and it's just, Prabhus, let's all come together and look at this painting. Well, what's the motivation for looking at that painting? Let's hear some poetry. Let's just be in this kirtan and just really relish the kirtan. You're not going to accomplish any money from it. You're not going to make any big political moves or anything. It's just there for its own sake. And therefore, we often comment that bhakti and art, art is the closest thing to bhakti in this material world. Because art in its pure form should have no motivation. And just as bhakti is ahoitaki, apratiyata, it has no other motivation. So pure art also should be. Whereas if you have, I grew up with the Beatles, and the Beatles were my big heroes when I was growing up as a young boy. But I don't want to say something political, I'm sorry, but some people say that Paul McCartney sold out. and he had made this band and it was to make money or whatever. So if you do something just for art, just for the sake of art, everybody appreciates that. But when you do something just to make a buck, then we say you're a good craftsman, but you're not an artist, because it's not going to inspire the heart in the same way. So every culture needs art. I love to go to Budapest in Hungary. And one of the things I love about it, and the devotees may criticize me for this, I don't care, but I love the art there. And maybe it's not devotional, But I love the architecture. I love the statues. I love the bridges. I love the different buildings and things because it inspires the heart. It inspires us to think of something beyond these four walls and in this normal material world. That's what art is meant to do. And in its best form, art gives us some idea of transcendence, of spirit. So art should always be encouraged, and artists should always be supported in any culture, because if everything is just according to rules and law, as we were reading recently from Srila Prabhupada in Mauritius, you have the standard of law. People are not going to follow you, but they follow love. And law, you can't express loving feelings in a law. You can tell your children, Brenda Sundar can say, okay, here is the law. You are not allowed to go out after this time and this and this. Now, you give all these rules, and the children don't say, how many times they turn and say, wow, Mom, thank you. You really love me by giving me these laws, right? These rules. You don't hear that, right? But when the mother comes and says, you know, I baked something special for you today. We're going to go for a walk in the mountains today. And it's just something because I just love you. And I just care. And you go and give them a big hug. And there's no motivation for it. Then that controls the heart of that child. Whereas the rules and regulations, they don't. And the parent may be giving the rules out of love, but that those rules are not a good expression. They're not a good conduit of the love. They can't carry that message properly. So thank you, Jal. I want to keep going, but we're going a little bit over time. Let's see. Reed, do you want to share something today?
Yeah, at the beginning of the Katha, you mentioned that in Kali Yuga, our only adhikars that we have is pleasing Gurudev and pleasing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to please Guru, we do bhajan. Whereas in different yugas, our adhikar was our bhajan, but actually just our real adhikar in Kali Yuga is pleasing Gurudev, and so it's nice to hear that over
we can have a theoretical understanding of that. This morning we're reading from Jiva Goswami's commentary in the 11th canto, the verse Bhagavatam, on the verse Archayame Vahariye Pujam Nana Shariyate. Yesterday we were reading this, and how this verse speaks about the Kanishta Adhikari. And Madhvacharya in his commentary says that a Madhyam Adhikari gives respect to everyone, because a Kanishta Natad Bhakteshu Chanyeshu doesn't respect everybody. The Madhyam, he respects everyone because he says, oh, God is in everyone's heart. But his respect is a mental adjustment. He's heard that, and so I'm supposed to do this. Just like, somebody comes to the temple and they give a talk. We should love all the devotees. If you don't love all the devotees, not everybody's inspired. And so then wow, that's right. So you have some mental concept of that. And so then you go around and you offer obeisances to the devotees. Say, Prabhu, please let me give you a hug. I saw Radhanath Maharaj do this. So I'm also going to do this. But it's a mental adjustment that we have, and it's not the same thing. It's still valuable. Madhvacharya says it's still valuable. So we should have some conception of it. Our bhajan may be on the mental platform, but Tate Krishna Bhaji Kore Guru Sevan. I'm doing this bhajan because I know it's pleasing to Gurudev, and that's such an important thing. These are personalities, just like Reed. You have some passion. I know, we saw you when you were here. You have a passion about natural living. You have a passion about cows. You have a passion about organic farming and things. And so that's a very beautiful passion. So if someone wants to really come close with you, they need to understand your passion. And if they can't understand your passion and they want to buy a gift, so they buy a suit and tie for you as a gift. and they buy you a flat in downtown New York City because really I just love you so much and I want to give you the best thing in the whole world. You may say, well, that's really nice. Gee, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. But you don't feel so happy because they haven't really. And someone else may come and they say, Reed, I got for you, I have a big box of Gobar, cow poop. And look at his smiles. Yes, he likes it better than a suit and tie because he knows this is really good for the plants. And then he understands this person cares about me. This person has come to understand my heart. And it may be in kind of an intellectual way, like the Madhyamadikari, that oh, I don't really understand read so deeply. I think a suit and tie is the best thing. But everybody's told me that he really likes gobar. He really likes cow dung. So that's what I'm going to get for him. I'm going to give him that thing. So then you still appreciate that. You look at him and you see, well, he's not really understanding, but still he's trying. Just like children. Sometimes they try to please the parents. And they don't really understand the parents, but they have some mental conception of what's, and the parents appreciate that attempt, isn't it? Is that okay? Thank you, Reed. I appreciate that. Brajabanita, do you want to jump in? Are you not driving the car, are you? It looks like you're driving.
Actually, I am doing, but I can say a few words.
Okay, just don't crash the car. That'll be very depressing.
No, I'm good driver.
Okay.
I'm fine. I just, actually, I heard you partly, not all, but I really love all these topics. And a few things I was thinking today, and somehow, I don't know, but I want to talk about it now. I talked to Bonnie today, by writing, by messaging.
Yeah, Bonnie in America, in Vermont.
Bonnie, yeah, Bonnie. And she told me that in Boston Temple, they ask for entering there, they ask the green vaccination passport.
Right.
And I wasn't shocked. This is one thing that I wanted to share with you. I wasn't shocked, really.
Right.
And another thing that I just, like I put this comment about George Harrison, that I never heard that he told about himself like a leader, or he accept himself as a leader. And that's why I'm just thinking that when you said that our only adhikar, it's to serve our guru and our Guru Janas actually, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So why actually in our society we are using all these terms like leaders, what it means actually? Why there are all those courses, weird courses that is called courses for leaders? What does it mean actually? This is my question.
Ultimately,
Sorry,
what it means is that we're trying to serve Srila Prabhupada's desire. And Srila Prabhupada's desire is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire. And we should see the essential thing. And therefore, Prabhupada told the GBC, this chanting should go on. Instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and no solutions, there should be chanting. So that's Prabhupada's prominent desire. But that gift comes in a box. And the box is the institution. Because some people, if you just give them a gift, if there's no box that it's in, they don't appreciate the gift. They want to have a nice box with some nice wrapper and things on it. Therefore, one of the devotees who was present when Srila Prabhupada signed the formal papers inaugurating ISKCON, he remembered, he said that Prabhupada, when he signed those legal documents that ISKCON's an entity now, he turned to the devotees and he said, actually, we don't need this. We can just sit under a tree and chant Hare Krishna. Of course, that's what Prabhupada did in Tompkins Square Park. He said, but if we do that, who will come? So we should always be saragrahi in seeing the essential quality of what Srila Prabhupada wanted and not become confused by the box. But the box, there's a necessity for the box. And Prabhupada wanted a nice box. He wanted a very clean box. He wanted it to function very nicely. That box means the management. It means the institution. And sometimes we come with some external conception, just like our mutual friend Bonnie. She's kind of a real radical person. If you just look at her in 1 second, you can see Bonnie's a very radical kind of person. She's coming from that kind of background before. She like myself, I can relate to that. Before I joined, I sometimes commented, one of my favorite things to do when I was in high school is I would ask the teacher for permission to use the bathroom. And I would go wait in the hall. And my friend would ask to use the bathroom a minute later. And he would come out. And then I would stand on his shoulders when no one was around. I'd put up stickers real high on the wall. It said, question authority. And that was one of my that was one of my favorite things. That's the kind of background that I come from. And I could tell you a lot of bad stories that I didn't get along with authority. I've always had a problem with that. So we carry our own particular karma. And we see things through our particular karma, through that lens. And even we see Krishna consciousness in that way. And so then when we come to the Boston Temple and we see that they're saying where you have to have a vaccination, otherwise you can't come inside the temple, then based on my background, I may say, well, this person's just an institutional kind of person. They're just following authority in a mechanical way, and I don't like that. It turns me off. And they might be. I'm not trying to defend them. It may be. But it also might be our perspective. Now, what if that temple president, maybe, first of all, they may be told by the city council or that neighborhood that you cannot have meetings unless everybody's vaccinated. That's possible. Maybe it's not true. But that may be one reason why they're doing it. A second reason they may be doing it, and you don't know, they may have ecstatic love for all the devotees. And the way that ecstatic love is manifested is a concern that we want to see that everybody has a vaccination. So let me openly state right now on this topic, I haven't been vaccinated yet. And I'm not in a big rush to do so. But Bhakti Rupa Prabhu, who stays with us, has been vaccinated, and I really don't care. I want to see something beyond who's vax and anti-vax. I think that's an external thing. I want to see the motivation of the devotees. And I have full faith that it's possible that some devotees may institute some rule out, and it may be motivated by love for the devotees. They may say that everybody should have some vaccination. And maybe it's a fact that maybe they're just being mechanical. They're being institutional. But still, that's a manifestation of their consciousness. That's the way they're seeing things. And I want to look at the good in it. I want to see the good in them, and I want to appreciate they're trying to do this for the devotees. Maybe I don't appreciate that, so then I may just do some program somewhere else. To be really honest with you, Brajabanita, I don't hang out in very many temples. Even my Guru Maharaj's temple, it's not really my personal thing. I'm sorry, it's just not. I like being in my house with a small group of devotees like we have here in our room right now, who are friends. It's just so much more nourishing for me. But I also give regular classes for the ISKCON Youth Forum in Bhubaneswar. And I sometimes go to our ISKCON Bhubaneswar temple, as political as it is sometimes, as institutional and mechanical as it is sometimes, very difficult. And I support them because we have to support the organized religion also. Because I'm seeing, as I mentioned in the beginning of my response to your comments, I'm seeing Srila Prabhupada's desire. And Prabhupada said that we can just chant under a tree, but if we do, who's going to come? So we have the institution, maybe not for you or I or for Bonnie or for some of us in this discussion, but we have this institution for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure, because Prabhupada knows that many people won't come. If you just, in Denver, Colorado, if you just say, well, we're going to break the temple and we're just going to plant a big tree and we're all just going to sit under the tree. And it's going to be really beautiful. And we're just going to chant Hare Krishna. And that's really cool. And you may get some really elevated persons to come and sit with you under that tree and chant. But I suspect that you probably wouldn't get much of a response, especially in the wintertime in Denver. People, they want to see a building. They want to see some formal structure, both in terms of external building and in terms of an institution. So the difficulty for us, and I know this is for you, Brajamani, too, because you're an artist. And artists, they oftentimes don't like all these institutions and rules and things like that. They're looking for the essence of things. I know that's what you're looking for. That's what you like George Harrison. He's also one of my heroes too. And George Harrison, Shyamasundar Prabhu remembers that once he was with George, and all of a sudden all these reporters came to interview them for something, and George hated it. He didn't like being the big person and stuff. So he turned to Shyamasundar and said, hey, come with me. And they ran into the kitchen. There's some hotel there or something. And there was one of these, I don't know what you call it in English, I forget. You like open a door and there's a tube which goes down. It's like a slide where they put clothes in or whatever. And they jumped into that tube and then they slid down and they came out in a different place and they managed to escape. from the reporters. So that's George Harrison. And wow, I love that. And for me, his contribution is far more important than George Martin's contribution in some ways. George Martin was a guy who put it all together, made the record album, and produced everything. But I appreciate George's but you needed both. If there was no George Martin there to get the band together, then there wouldn't be any voice to express George Harrison's mood. You're helping to decorate the dramatical artist, putting makeup on them, fixing their hair and stuff. So that's good. But if there's no stage, there's no formal building, there's no formal time to start things, then your expression of art is lost and nobody gets to appreciate it. So picture frames have a purpose. And I always want to see that and I want to appreciate it. And in our movement, there's something for the people who just love picture frames. There's something for the George Martins and there's something for the George Harrisons also. And we want to keep both. And personally, like you, maybe I'm more into George Harrison than I am the George Martin, but both are required. Is that okay, Brajabanita? You finished your driving and you're alive. Thank you. It makes me nervous when I see you driving and talking. Okay, let's see. Natalia is already there. Who else? Anybody else would like to say anything? Maya Porchender, you're still welcome. I don't know what's going on there. Otherwise, maybe we can turn to Maya Porchandi Prabhu Hari Bol. You're there. So nice to see you. Look at him. He's so effulgent. He's the only doctor in upstate New York who has a shaved head, tilak and kunti mala. So nice to see you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So nice to be here. And I mean, I have been missing this class for many sessions. So I'm so unfortunate. So, but I mean, today I was able to join at the end. So thank you so much. So, I mean, I would request if you can have these classes on your channel, YouTube.
Nice. I fixed it up. Ashwin gave me some advice. Right now we're live streaming on YouTube also. It's going on. So.
Oh, very nice. So because all the previous classes, do you think, I mean, somebody can?
Yeah, I have to tell you, laundry shoot. Thank you, Jaigor. That was an important comment. The laundry shoot. Yeah, I have to tell you honestly, I'm not very good with picture frames. I like the kata, but I'm not very good with recording everything and organizing it and all that. Anapayani was doing that for a while, but Anapayani, actually, to tell you the truth, she's also pretty lousy with, she's more of an artist and things like that. So I don't know. I think all of those recordings, everything has been recorded, but I'd have to ask the boss. I'd have to ask my wife. She takes care of that. And a few people, when we posted the last one on YouTube, some devotees said, wow, where's the beginning of this? And they wanted to know that. Krishna Kun's here right now. She says everything is recorded.
Yeah.
But
how
it needs
do
to
we
be
get
sorted out and uploaded. Well, see, Krishna Kun's also, she's not such a picture frame person either. And she's busy with doing a lot of things around here, like cooking and taking care of her crazy husband and stuff like that. So she hasn't had a lot of time, but we've got them. And I can't promise in because she's also doing physical therapy right now because she broke her knee. And you're a doctor, you know, they told her that if you don't do this physical therapy right now twice a day, you may not be able to walk properly again the rest of your life. So it's a really crucial time for her. And so we're very fortunate. We have a couple wonderful devotees who came from Mayapur to spend some time with us and help cook. So Krishna Kun has more time for this. So that's all that I can tell you, my friend. But I want to put in a little plug for you that anybody's going to upstate New York, you definitely have to visit Mayapur Chandra Prabhu and get some prasadam from them. And if you're really fortunate, you spend the night. And maybe if you're really, really fortunate, you can attend their Bhagavad Gita session, as I did in their house. It's really, really amazing. So what's the name of the town you stay in, Prabhuji? I always forget the name of it.
Newburgh, New Windsor.
Newburgh, yeah. So if you're going in Newburgh, New York, upstate New York, you're going up there, you have to stop by. They have a beautiful restaurant, wonderful prasadam, very loving exchanges with the devotees. So please stop. And if you're lucky, he might even look at you and do some doctor stuff too. I don't know. Okay, is that all right? Do you have any other reflections you want to share, Maya Pachanda Prabhu, about
I mean,
today's talk?
it was so nice too. I was hearing from all the devotees. I joined at the last part of the class, so I mean, it was so wonderful. So I just want to hear from all the devotees, so I can make up, hopefully.
That's what's wonderful. Krishna Katha is okay, but if it's just Krishna Katha by itself, it's just a recording you can turn up or lower the volume. It's not so inspiring, but at least if we can look at each other and have some exchanges, that's better. But much better than that, go to Newburgh and get, and they actually have pizza there sometimes too. Go to Newburgh and get some prasadam and sit down and talk with Maya Pachanda Prabhu and his whole family. They're all wonderful devotees. That's the real deal, not just Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll save the best for last, I think. Jai Gaur, you have any reflection you want to share with us today?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is Bana there?
She's not with us right now, unfortunately.
Okay. I hope you're being nice to her. And tell her I said that.
I would say that I am, but she's not here to comment, so I guess that works out well for me.
All right.
I was thinking about when you were speaking about Putana. I often like to think about how Krishna can't give bhakti for himself. And I was thinking about how you're saying how Putana got bhakti. And it just kind of started me in this, I don't know, it's kind of sweet and mysterious in a way that it in one way it seems like Krishna's just, going around, he's performing his pastimes and he's kind of conjuring up attraction for himself. But the way that I was thinking is that there's, behind the scenes, there's a devotee somewhere who is, has their hand in it, and they're doing something. They're praying for that person, or they're saying, they're just casting a glance on that person and saying, I want that person to make a connection with Krishna, and that's how they're actually doing it. And it's kind of mysterious because, like we read in Bhagavatam, Krishna is so beautiful and attractive. Like, how could he not, how could he not cause people to be attracted to him and begin the process of bhakti? So I was wondering if you could, but at the same time, I know that he doesn't have love for himself, and philosophically we understand he doesn't have bhakti for himself, so he can't give it. I was wondering if you could maybe say something.
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, I'd like to try to distill your question.
Yeah.
In the Narada Bhakti Purana, in the Narada Purana, it said that Bhakti Stu Bhagavad Bhakti Sangena Parijayate, that bhakti comes from a devotee. So if we say that Putana got prem, what devotee gave her prem? Who did she please? She didn't please Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda was not very happy with Putana. She didn't please Rohini. She didn't please Nandama. This is a very interesting question. In the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, it's the prayers of Lord Brahma, there's an interesting question raised. And it speaks about Putana. And the question is that how is it that Putana got something which Aghasura and Bakasura, those are her family members. Those are her two brothers. She has a really nice family of demons. Aghasura and Bakasura got liberation, but they didn't get bhakti. But Putana did. Why? And there's a very interesting question. There's a whole, if you look at Sridhar, there's like about 6 different commentaries on this who study this thing. So the answer is that Putana, she had to have some mercy from a devotee. Bhakti Stu Bhagavad Bhakti Sangena Parijayate. To get bhakti, you have to have the blessings of a devotee. So what did she have? Well, the only answer that I know that we can give to that question is that Putana dressed like a devotee. And Sridhar Swami Bhavarta Deepika makes this comment, Sanatana Goswami Brihad Vaishnava Toshani, Lagu Vaishnav Toshni of Jiva Goswami and Sarta Darshani of Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, they all make the same point. The reason why Putana got mercy was she dressed up like a devotee. Brajabanita, I hope you're hearing this right now. She dressed up like a devotee. And because, I don't know, it doesn't say she put on a sari, but it says she dressed like a devotee. And because she was dressed like a devotee, it reminded Krishna of the devotees. And she got this mercy. So we can understand from this that there's so much potency with the devotees that if Krishna just reminded of a devotee, just by dressing like a devotee. And what does that mean? Dress, it doesn't say that she was wearing a sari or this or that. I would imagine that she was probably wearing tilak, maybe kunti mal. Those are the two things which Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur stresses in Ragvartma Chandrika. He doesn't speak about dhotis and saris, but still we may wear dhotis and saris because that's a devotional dress for us because we please Prabhupada in that way. Prabhupada likes that. But it's also not the only way. And demons may dress in saris and dhotis also, just like Putana did. So now a further question comes, which our acharyas have given in regards to your point, that, okay, Putana, she got liberation, she got bhakti because she dressed like a devotee. Now, why did Aghasura and Bakasura, how did they get liberation? Because they didn't dress like a devotee. So the answer is they got liberation because their sister dressed like a devotee. And because their sister dressed like a devotee, then they got liberation. But now they didn't get bhakti, they only got mukti. Why didn't they get bhakti? Because they didn't dress like a devotee. That's the answer from our acharyas. So powerful is that Vaishnav dress. And I would suggest that what's powerful about it is not whether I have a cotton sari or a mixed sari on, or I have a silk dhoti on or a cotton dhoti, or I tie the dhoti in this way. That, but what's powerful is the intention, is the conception that we're doing this because I want to belong to Gurudev. I want to show some adherence to Gurudev. And again, Srila Prabhupada told some devotees, he said, sannyasis can wear a suit and tie. Sannyasis, what to speak of normal devotees, but sannyasis can wear a suit and tie as long as they wear tilak and kunti mala. And they can go out and preach. He said that's better. We're not so hung up about the dress. We don't care so much about that. But if someone is adopting a particular dress with a devotional mood, it's the mood that the Lord sees, not the particular color of the sari or the shirt that they're wearing or something. Oh my God, he's wearing a t-shirt. He can't go back to Godhead. It's got to be a kurta. Something like that. Is that okay, Jagur?
Yeah, Prabhu, that's really nice. I was just reflecting on that a little bit also while you were speaking, that like was just thinking for my own self, like maybe some new people will come to the kirtan program and devotees will come to the kirtan program. You're in some sense, you're like, devotees, you might be happier to see them. Or like another example is like maybe someone's been coming to kirtan for a long time and starting to read and really liking things, and then they decide that they want to, they would like to wear some kanti mala, or they want to put on tilak or something like that. And that's like really sweet to you, and really like you feel happy and pleased that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of endearing to you. And then I was thinking more like, even like they might have a completely like the wrong intention, maybe like even ill motives or something like that, like, but like a devotee will see them and say, wow, that's so nice that they're doing that, and then Krishna's like almost forced to give them some attention.
Yeah, there's many examples of that. You've heard me over the years speak a lot about this. I think sometimes people come, the FBI dresses up, with dhoti and tilak or whatever, to spy on the devotees. But still, Krishna's so kind that when Putana dressed up in a disguise, she's like the original FBI or something, and tried to enter into Mother Yashoda's house, Nanda Maharaj's house, Krishna accepted that as service. So that's a very special thing, and especially if somebody's doing it for some devotional cause, as you mentioned. Let me read Gorni Prabhu's comment here. It looks really sweet. It says, it's much easier to store the meaning of the words than the mood of the speaker. Yeah, we can collect on a recording. We can make some transcription of something that the speaker said, but to collect their mood, that mood, you can't record that on a tape recorder. Mm-hmm. And he says, I so much miss devotees really singing verses with full heart and joy. That was amazing when I heard your Gurumars being so wild, so emotional and dramatic. And His Grace Amarendra Prabhu too. I like very much when you sing emotionally too. When we sing something, singing is the closest thing to the heart. Right? Musical instruments are nice. Out of all the musical instruments, we can play guitar and jagor, or you can play the mridanga or something, and those are wonderful instruments. But they don't convey the feeling of the heart to the same extent that the voice can. You can do something with the guitar, with the mridanga, and to the extent that that instrument has become like one with you, it can express your feelings, and you can make someone cry by playing the guitar in a very heartfelt way, or the mridanga. You can convey some emotions, but still, as compared to the human voice carries emotion so much more powerfully. Therefore, it's the best of all the different instruments. Okay, so we're really fortunate too today. We're here with Alina and with Ami Atma. They came down from Mayapur. We were just reading in the Gopal Champu that there's 3 types of friends. Mm-hmm. Someone, they're not surit, what's the word used? They're a bandhu, that's not the exact word used, but they're a bandhu, they're a friend. It's a keli, you play with them. You have some pastimes together, you take prasadam together, you do kirtan together. But they're priya, they're very intimate with you if they understand your feelings, your suffering. But they're, what's the word? Bandhu swapriya. They're a very intimate friend when they come and stay with you out of concern. So they came all the way down because they were concerned about Krishna Kuna, not just in the theoretical way, but they wanted to come and stay and help do something. So thank you. So you guys have any reflections you want to share? You don't have to. Yeah, Alina has something. I'm going to drag the microphone over here for you. Let's see. Do you mind if I turn the computer so you can see you? Would you rather not? Okay. So I'm going to turn something that I get to see.
Hare Krishna.
And there's Alina.
Hare Krishna devotees. I like the point you said about Vani and Vapuseva. When you're doing Vapuseva, you cannot be satisfied completely if you do not get Vani, because you cannot satisfy the person who you serve to. And I got some kind of reflection on what you said. If you are doing Vani Seva, you're hearing, and you automatically want to do Vapu. That's what I...
Yeah, otherwise, what kind of Vani Seva are you doing? As I mentioned, you just tell Srila Prabhupada, just Prabhupada, let's just get right to the straight to the thing and just speak, just give class. We're not going to feed you. We're not going to give you places. Yeah. Well, what kind of thing is that? It's horrible.
But that's kind of intimate thing, but that's a close, I think, your meeting also. Yeah. Krishna Kund is giving some class. She gives class once a week. So I'm getting her mood, her emotions and so on. So yeah, when I got this news that she had an accident with her knee, I decided, I had an idea, the desire to come and help her. And then we got this news about your cook, Shasha Prabhu, he cannot cook. And Prabhu had the same desire to come. He was reading your book. That's why we decided to come. That's how Vani came to the point of Vapuseva. Hopefully we can be helpful.
Do you have any reflections, any questions? You can speak in Russian as much as you can translate. Anything you liked or whatever. Okay. Amitabha is, I'm really waiting for him to learn English more so I can speak more with him, because I see that he likes Granta Seva very much. I see Amitabha likes Granta Seva very much, but he doesn't speak much English, so it's a little hard right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. Hey, Jai Gaur, tell Bana that we miss seeing her. It would be nice to be able to get this chance to see her. And so I want to thank everybody very much for taking part tonight. And I think Mayapur Chandraprabhu already had, no, he's still there. Mayapur Chandraprabhu, it was nice to get to see him again and all the devotees. And we're coming together. It's not just like a social thing. Just, we want to be so lovey and friendly and this and that, but we want to come together for Krishna Katha and a Krishna Katha Sangha. But at the same time, we want to also be appreciative and personal. So thanks for the laundry chute comment, Jai Gaur. I like that very much. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vancha Kalpa Darubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Ananda Kori Vaishnava Binda ki jai.